John Heitzman made his way back up the garden path as fast as his legs could carry him, limping with his cane and stumbling. Panting and feeling a little confused, he approached Sally and asked, "Where is he now? Where's your husband, Sally? Where?" "Please calm down, John," said Sally softly. "You shouldn't allow yourself to get so excited. Please sit down." "It turns out, John, that back in my childhood I promised a very fine young boy that I would become his wife." "But that was a game," John Heitzman was practically shouting as he leapt up out of the chair. "A children's game." "Maybe so," Sally responded. "Anyway, let's say I'm still continuing to play at it, and I'm pretending that you're my husband and my beloved." "George does look a lot like me, the way I looked as a boy. Does that mean you gave birth to a child after that night, Sally? Did you have a baby?" "Yes, John, I had our son, and he looks like me, but he very much has your genes, and our grandson is the spitting image of you." John Heitzman's gaze alternated between Sally and the boy and girl setting the table out on the veranda. He was no longer able to speak. His thoughts and feelings were confused. Then, for reasons which he himself did not fully understand, he said in a businesslike tone, "I have to leave right away. Goodbye, Sally." He took a couple of steps down the path, then turned and headed over to Sally, who was standing there quietly. Barely supporting himself on his cane, he got down on one knee in front of her, took her hand and gave it a long, slow kiss. "Sally, I have some very important, urgent matters to attend to. I have to leave immediately." She put her hand on his head, softly rumpling his hair. "Yes, of course. You have to leave, if you've got important matters and problems to take care of. If you run into any difficulties, John, you can always come here to our home. Our son now manages his own little firm. It's known by the lovely name of Lotos, and he does landscape design. He's had no special training, but I taught him myself, and he's doing some very smart designs, and there's hardly any shortage of orders. He helps me financially and visits me every month. But it seems you've got some money problems, and something of a health problem too. Come back, John. I know how to give you treatment, and we've got enough money to live on." "Thank you, Sally, thank you. I've got to hurry. I've got to go." He walked down the path to the gate, his thoughts all caught up in the plan he had in mind. In the meantime, Sally watched John's receding figure and whispered to herself, "Come back, my love." She was still repeating this phrase like a mantra, even an hour later, forgetting about her grandchildren. She did not even notice the helicopter circling for more than half an hour overhead, over her plot of land with its little house and marvellous garden. By the time John Heitzman's helicopter landed on the office tower roof, his close associates and their secretaries were already hard at work in the boardroom, feverishly checking figures, getting ready to report to the boss. They had grown unaccustomed to meeting in his presence, and now it was with considerable fear and trepidation that they awaited his arrival. When John Heitzman entered the room, everybody rose to their feet. He began speaking even before reaching his chair at the head of the boardroom table. "Sit down. No reports today. Listen carefully to what I have to say. I'm not going to repeat myself. No time. So, in Texas there's this villa. Here's the address. Your instructions are to buy up all the lands around this house within a radius of 100 miles. Buy up all the industries located on these lands, even if it means paying 3 times their worth. Whichever one of you is responsible for buying and selling real estate can leave the room now and get to work immediately. Put all our agents on the job if required. This operation should take no more than 1 week." One of the associates jumped up and hurried toward the exit. John Heitzman continued, "All buildings, factories and facilities located on these lands are to be demolished within a month, max, even if this means hiring hundreds of construction companies. A month from now, grass should be planted on these sites." Heitzman instructed the last associate remaining in the room. "There's a firm in Texas with the pretty name of Lotos. Sign a 5-year contract with it. Engage this firm to design communities for all the land we buy up around that villa in Texas. Whatever the firm asks, double it. Do it." 2 weeks later, John Heitzman appeared before an audience of 1,500 people. The audience, recruited with the help of personnel firms, comprised landscape design specialists, botanists and agronomists, Everyone wanted to get work, especially since the advert mentioned the contract amount, twice the standard average. John Heitzman walked up to the podium and began speaking in his usual authoritative tone, which was rather sharp. According to the contracts being offered you, each of you will receive free of charge a plot of land for lifetime use, measuring 5 acres. You'll be offered several designs for prefab homes to choose from, and these homes will be built on each plot at whatever spot you designate, all at my company's expense. For the next 5 years, the company will make payments to each adult member of your family as specified in the contract. Your job is to make the territory you receive a place of beauty. You will plant gardens and flower beds and make ponds and pathways. You'll make everything beautiful and good. The company will pay the cost of seedlings and whatever seed materials you request. That's it. If there are no questions, those who wish to accept my offer can sign their contract. But the 1,500-seat auditorium was enshrouded in utter silence. Nobody got up from their seats to head over to the tables where secretaries were waiting with contracts ready to sign. After a minute of complete silence, an elderly man rose from his seat and asked, "Tell me, sir, these lands where you propose we settle, are they contaminated with deadly pollutants?" "No," replied one of Heitzman's associates. "On the contrary, this whole area has a comparatively clean environment, and the soil is quite fertile." "Then tell us honestly," asked a young woman jumping up from her seat, "what kind of an experiment are you proposing to conduct on people? Many of us have children, and I, for one, do not want to subject my child to goodness knows what kind of an experiment." The hall erupted with a general buzz, and cries of "opportunist," "inhuman," "monsters" could be heard. People started getting up and filing toward the exit. Heitzman's associates tried to explain and respond to the questions, but to no avail. Heitzman himself sat there helplessly and watched the people leave the room. He realized that their departure was the final blow to his hopes, or something even worse. He so wanted to do something nice for Sally, for his son and grandchildren. He wanted not only for there to be no more belching smokestacks in the vicinity of Sally's cosy cottage, but for there to be gardens around and good neighbours too. He had brought up the lands, and the belching smokestacks had been demolished on his orders, and grass had been sown in their place. But the land could only become good if good people lived on it. And here they were leaving. They did not understand. How could they understand anyway? What could make them believe? Stop! All at once it dawned on him. They knew nothing about the situation, and that was why they did not believe. But now if he told them the truth... John Heitzman rose to his feet and quietly, still hesitantly, began to speak. "People," he began, "I understand. I need to explain to you the reason for this action by my company, but they're impossible to explain. There's no way that can be explained, because it's just that you see, it's like this, or rather, there's something personal to me in all these contracts, or how shall I put it?" Heitzman was confused and did not know how to continue, but the people had stopped in their tracks. They were standing in the aisles, in the exit doorways, and they were all looking intently at Heitzman. They were silent, and here he was, not knowing how to proceed. Yet somehow he managed to pull himself together and go on. "Back in my childhood, in my youth, you see, I loved this girl, but I didn't realize back then I was in love with her. I was later married to other women. I got involved in business. For the past 50 years, I never saw this girl, never even thought about her. And then just recently I remembered her. I discovered she was the only person who ever sincerely loved me, and she still does. But I didn't know about it. Like I said, I'd forgotten all about her, and I realized that she was the only one I could ever love. And then I met her. Now, of course, she's along in years, but for me, she's still the same as back when I knew her years before. She loves her garden. She does everything so beautifully. And I wanted there to be beauty around her and good neighbours. It's better for her to have good and happy neighbours living nearby. But how to make that happen? As a businessman, I've managed to put a bit of money aside, and so I bought up the land, divided it into plots, and drew up these contracts. I did it for the one I love, or just maybe I did it for myself." This last sentence John Heitzman uttered almost as though putting the question to himself. After that, he began speaking as though talking aloud to himself, as though he did not see the people standing in front of him. We live for something. What do we live for? We strive for something. What is it we're striving for? I'm going to die soon. What am I leaving behind except dust? But now I'm not going to die, not until I finish my project. And I'll leave behind something eternal. I'll leave behind a garden for the one I love. I'll leave behind many gardens. You know, first I wanted to simply hire a whole lot of workers and sign a contract with a big company doing landscape design. Sign a contract so that employees could look after the plants. But then it dawned on me, any kind of beauty will turn out lifeless if you don't create it for yourself. And that's why I decided to make it so that someone created it for themselves. That's why I'm offering you the plots of land and the houses, and all I ask in return is for beauty around the one I love. You didn't believe that the terms offered in these contracts were genuine. You didn't know what goals the party offering you these contracts was really pursuing. Now you know. At this point, John Heitzman fell silent. The people standing in the hall were silent too. The first to break the silence was the woman who had expressed the most skepticism earlier. First, she hurried over to the row of tables standing by the stage with the contracts laid out and asked one of the secretaries to enter her name on a copy, which she signed without even reading it. Then she turned to the people standing in the auditorium and exclaimed, "There, I've signed it. I was the first one to sign. That means I'll go down in history because I was the first." When you think about it, not a single man, no matter how rich, has ever given a greater gift to the one he loves than this person standing there on the stage, and it would be impossible for him to do more. Nobody could even think of doing more, cried another woman, in the whole recorded history of mankind. "I love you," cried out a third. "I want a plot right next to your beloved," declared a fourth. "What's her name?" "Her name," began Heitzman, but went on, "Maybe it's better she doesn't know. Let her think that this was all the will of fate." With a single surge, the people in the hall headed over to the table standing by the stage. A queue formed. People gaily joked with each other, calling at each other simply neighbour, but the majority, especially the women, kept staring at the man on the stage with sparkles of love in their eyes. For the first time in his life, John Heitzman felt the energy of good directed at him, the energy of love and unfeigned delight emanating from many human hearts, an all-triumphant energy capable of healing any ill. He walked off the stage, now without a trace of a limp. For several months, he personally took active part in the demolition of the remaining facilities on the bought-up lands, discussed the details of design of the whole community around Sally's cottage and alternative landscape designs for different plots, along with the whole infrastructure. A year later, when John Heitzman once again approached the gate leading to Sally's cottage, as far as the eye could see, people were already planting little saplings for their large gardens. Several saplings stood near Sally's gate with a carefully wrapped root system. It seemed as though Sally had intuitively felt him coming, for she ran out to greet him. "John, it's so good to see you again. Really good. Hello there, John." She ran up to him with a spring in her step, bubbling over like a young girl. She grasped John's arm, pulled him over to have a cup of tea, all the while happily chattering away non-stop. "You know what's been happening, John? You know what a miracle's been taking place here all around? I'm so superbly happy. There'll be no more belching smokestacks next to our house. There'll be good neighbours. See how life's sprucing up all around? Really sprucing up. If you've had any business failures, John, don't worry your little head about it. You can just laugh at it and come and move in with us. We're wealthy now. Our son's just got himself a real big contract, and I mean big. He's now in charge of a whole design and planning project, and we've got ourselves a little more land. Our son's going to be building himself a new house, and the two of us, if you want to, can live here." "I do want to," replied John Heitzman, adding, "Thank you, Sally, for the invitation." "But why go on living in an old house?" boomed out a voice from behind John Heitzman's back. He turned around and caught sight of his son. He knew right off that it was his son, and the young man continued, "If I understand correctly, you are actually my father. When little George told me that you thought the photo of Mum's childhood friend was of him, I knew who had come, and Mum never did learn to hide her true feelings. I, of course, don't yet have the same feelings towards you that Mum does, but for the sake of my happy parents, I am ready to pay for the building of a new house for the two of you." "Thank you, son," said John Heitzman, almost overcome with emotion. He wanted to give his son a hug, but for some reason hesitated. The young man stepped towards him on his own, extended his hand and introduced himself. "I'm John." "Great," said Sally, "and it's great now that you two have got acquainted. When you get to know each other better, you'll really like each other. But right now, let's have some tea." And as they sat at the table, Sally kept on talking animatedly non-stop about the extraordinary events that had been taking place in the last few months. "Can you just imagine, John? Just imagine. Here they've been telling a story like the most beautiful tale in the world, a tale which is coming true to life. Just imagine, John. People say that all these lands were bought by one and the same person. Then this person invited the best designers, agronomists and gardeners and gave each of them several acres of land free of charge for their lifetime use. He told them to make their plots beautiful, and he offered them all the saplings and seeds free of charge, and will even keep on paying them for 5 years to beautify their own plots. Just imagine, it is he who will be paying them. He poured all his savings into this project, right down to the last cent." "Well, maybe not all," Heitzman protested. "People say he put in all. And you know why he did all this?" "Why?" asked John Heitzman calmly. "That's the whole beauty of it. He did it so that the one he loved could have a place to live amidst all this beauty. They say she's a landscape designer as well, and somewhere around here she's got a cottage too. Only nobody knows who she is or where she lives. Can you imagine, Johnnykins, what will happen when people find out who she is?" "What? What else? Everybody will want to have a look at her and even touch her like a goddess. I myself, for instance, would want to touch her. She's probably an extraordinary woman. Maybe she's extraordinary outwardly, maybe inwardly. Everybody around is saying that there's no other woman in the world who could inspire a man to take such an unusual and beautiful step. That's why all the people will want to see her and even touch this man and his extraordinary wife." "Probably they will," John Heitzman agreed, adding, "But what can we do about it, Sally?" "What do you mean, we?" Sally wondered aloud. "I say we because that extraordinary woman, the one on whose account all these things around are happening, is you, Sally." Sally stared at John without blinking, trying to make sense of what she had just heard. When the first glimpses of understanding dawned on her, she let the cup she was holding slip out of her hands, but nobody paid attention to the sound of it breaking into pieces. John Heitzman turned his head in the direction of another sound, the sound of a chair falling, when his son impulsively jumped up from his seat. The younger John rushed over to his father and said excitedly in a soft baritone voice, "Father, Father, can I give you a hug?" John Heitzman was the first to embrace his son. He could hear how his son's heart was racing. His son gave him a hug in turn, whispering excitedly, "The world has never witnessed such a powerful declaration of love, without even using the words of love, ever. I'm proud of you, Father. I'm so happy for you, Father." When father and son turned to Sally, she was still trying to come to terms with what had happened. All at once her cheeks flushed with a rosy glow, as though smoothing out the wrinkles around her eyes. Tears began rolling down her cheeks. Sally was embarrassed. She rushed over to the elder John, grabbed him by the arm and led him down the front porch steps. Their son watched as his parents, hand in hand, started making their way slowly down the path, heading for the acacia bushes which concealed the little house of their childhood, and then began skipping towards the acacias like youngsters. 10 years later, a much younger-looking John Heitzman was sitting at a local cafe bar with some other men from the community. He laughingly explained, "No, I won't run for any presidential office. Don't even try to tempt me. And it's not just a matter of age. You don't have to be president to run the country. That's something you can do from right in your own garden. See, you've shown by your own example how to really make a good life, and all America is now turning into a flourishing garden. If it goes on like this, heck, we'll even overtake Russia." We'll do it, echoed Sally, who had just come in. "Only now, let's head for home, Johnnykins. The baby won't go to sleep without you." Then she added, whispering in his ear, "And neither will I." And so they began walking home, down a shady, sweet-smelling alley, these two not yet old people, John Heitzman and Sally. In the springtime, it always seemed that their life was just beginning, just as real life was beginning all over America. "That's a beautiful ending to your story," I told Anastasia when she had finished telling her account of the future. "And all your stories are so encouraging. But will something like that really happen in real life? It will definitely happen, Vladimir. That is no made-up story, but a projection of the future. The names and locales are not important. What is important is the essence, the idea, the dream. And if my story has evoked positive feelings, then people will certainly project its essence into the future. And many people will add their own details and infuse the projection with their own meaning and conscious awareness. How does all that come about? See how simple it is. Did you like the story? Did I like it? I'll say. Do you want it to come true in the future? Of course I do. What if you tell it to others? Will there be those who will want to see something like that come true too? I dare say they will. You see, that means that anybody will want to, who takes on the role not just of an observer of history, but an actual participant in it, and they will make the story come true. Yes, I think that's clear enough. But I'm just a bit sad that you went and painted such a beautiful scene in respect for foreign entrepreneurs rather than Russians. Vladimir, for Russians, life is already drawing beautiful and real scenes all on its own. Or to put it more accurately, many Russians are working out the divine eternity, and that is something you could tell all by yourself. By myself? Well, I guess so. I really do know quite a few Russian entrepreneurs who have taken not just one but several hectares of land and are building their domains on them, like the ones you described, only their stories aren't as romantic. Grand chapters need to be written about anyone who has made conscious contact with the earth. Such a story will be inexhaustible. Look, here is just one story. See if you can recognize some familiar names.